Hello and welcome back to Saxon Math. This is lesson 49, dividing by a decimal number. It's a new concept. When the divisor of a division problem is a decimal number, we change the problem so that the divisor is a whole number. So if you had 124 divided by 1 and 24 hundredths divided by 4 tenths, the divisor is the 4 tenths, and it needs to be changed into a whole number. The dividend is 1 and 24 hundredths. So the divisor is a decimal number, and you have to change it to a whole number before you divide. One way to change a division problem is to multiply the divisor and the dividend by 10 in this case, because it's in the tenths place. So if we were to move this decimal 1 point to the right, we also need to do it here to make it an equivalent division problem. So this would be moving it 1 point to the right as well, and the decimal would come straight up into the answer. You need to have 1 divided by 4, which is nothing, 12 divided by 4, which is 3, and then 4 divided by 4, which is 1, so this would be 3 and 1/10. So just notice that the whole number division problem below, that multiplying both numbers by 10 does not change the quotient. So for example, 8 divided by 4 is 2. Well, 80 divided by 40 is also 2. You can see that multiplying both numbers by 10 doesn't change the answer to the division problem. So multiplying 4 and 8 by 10 doesn't change the quotient. The quotient is not changed because we formed an equivalent division problem, just as we form equivalent fractions by multiplying by a form of 1. So like 8 over 4 times 10 over 10, which is like a form of 1. 10 over 10 is the same as 1. It would be 80 over 40. Well, what's 8 divided by 4? Well, that's 2. We know that that equals 2. We know that 80 divided by 40 also equals 2. So it's an equivalent division problem. We can also use this method to change a division by a decimal number to a division by a whole number, which is necessary. If we multiply the divisor and the dividend in 1 and 24 hundredths divided by 4 tenths by 10, the new problem has a whole number divisor. So for example, 1 and 24 hundredths times 10 is 12 and 4 tenths. 4 tenths times 10, when you're multiplying denominators, ends up being 4. So numerators times the numerators, denominators times the denominators. Now you have 12 and 4 tenths divided by 4. So we divide that to find the quotient, which would be 3 and 1/10, because 12 divided by 4 is 3. Decimal comes straight up in the answer, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. So you can mentally multiply a decimal number by 10 or 100 by just shifting the decimals to the right, the number of places there are zeros. So we could shift a decimal to the right 1 place, or we could shift it to the right 2 places since it's multiplying by 2 zeros, or 100 with 2 zeros. So let's look at example 1. 1 and 24 hundredths divided by 4 hundredths. So again, you would multiply by, in this case, it looks like we'd want to multiply by 100 in this. 100 over 100 would end up getting you the problem. In this case, 4 is the whole number in the bottom now, and it'd be 124 in the top, because we'd shift the decimal 2 places to the right. Shifting the decimal 2 places to the right. If this was the problem, it's 1 and 24 hundredths divided by 4 hundredths. You see that you'd have to move this decimal 2 places to the right, and therefore you'd have to move this decimal 2 places to the right, and you'd have this problem right here, 124 divided by 4. So the divisor being 4/100ths is a decimal number with 2 decimal places. To make the divisor a whole number, we simply multiply it by 100 over 100, which shifts each decimal point 2 places to the right. So you'd end up with 124 divided by 4. This forms an equivalent division problem in which the divisor is a whole number, and then we perform the division. So then you have 12 divided by 4 is 3. 3 times 4 is 12. Subtract that, you'd have 0. Bring down the next number. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract that, you have nothing left over. 31 would be the answer. And what is the answer? What was the problem again? The original problem was 1 and 24 hundredths divided by 4 hundredths. So that means that answer is actually 31. It's an equivalent division problem to say 124 divided by 4 is 31. They're also the same. So just like in this equivalent division problem here, 4 divided by 8 is the same as 40 divided by, or 80 divided by 40 is the same as 8 divided by 4. So you can see that that works. Equivalent division problems. All right, let's look at this one. So if you have 6/10 as the divisor, 1 and 44 hundredths is the dividend. So that's 1 and 44 hundredths divided by 6. And if I need to move this until it's up against the wall, the decimal being in this position would mean that I'd had to multiply that times 10. If I multiplied this one times 10, I have to be fair. I have to multiply this one times 10. So I'm going to move the decimal one place to the right there. And if I move it one place to the right, I also have to bring the decimal straight up in the answer. So it's no longer in this position, it's over here. What did I just do? Well, I had this problem. I had 1 and 44 hundredths divided by 6/10. And I multiplied that times, it looks like I need to make this divisor, this is the divisor. All right, so since this is the divisor, I have to make that a whole number. And in order to do that, I have to multiply it by 10. So that means I have to multiply the other one by 10. The numerator times 10 is 14 and 4/10. The denominator times 10 is 6. So my new problem is now 14 and 4/10 divided by 6. I can just do that right here. Just recognize the decimal in the answer, or the quotient of this problem would be directly above where I had to shift it when multiplying. So see how it's now 14 and 4/10, just like it is over here. 14 and 4/10. So 14 divided by 6 is going to be 2, which would get me to 12. If I subtract that, this would be 2. Bring down the next one, that'd be 4. 24 divided by 6 would be 4. And that would be 24, and there'd be nothing left over. So 1 and 44 hundredths divided by 6/10 would be 2 and 4/10. So some people use the phrase over, over, and up to keep track of the decimal points when dividing by decimal numbers. So like this, here was the original position of the decimal. We moved it over. Well, we have to move this one over because it slammed up against the wall here. Now it's a whole number. So this one had to be moved over, and then it went straight up. So they just said over and over and up. All right, let's look at another example here. Sorry, we're going to try some practice problems. So if you didn't get that, you can rewind and check out those two examples we went over. But let's look at A. We would multiply the divisor and dividend of 1 and 44 hundredths divided by 1 and 2/10 by what number to make the divisor a whole number? So the divisor, remember, is this number right here. What do you have to multiply that by to make it a whole number? If you answered 10, you would have been correct. You have to multiply it by 10 because if you were to shift the decimal one place to the right, that now becomes 12. So your equivalent fraction for letter A would have been 14 and 4/10 divided by 12. Would have been the equivalent answer to 1 and 44 hundredths divided by 1 and 2/10. Those will both result in the correct answer. They'd both be equivalent division problems. We don't have to divide it though. It just wanted what you would divide it by to make the whole number out of the divisor. So that's it. That's the answer, 10. Letter B, we would multiply the divisor and dividend of 1 and 144 thousandths divided by 12 hundredths by what number to make the divisor a whole number? So in this case, I would have to multiply it by something by 1, 2. It has to have 2 zeros in it because I moved it 2 places to the right. So that means I had to multiply it by 100. And then this one obviously would also move it 2 places. So the equivalent division problem to this would have been 14 and 4 tenths divided by 12 as well. So you can see that would, what do you notice about the answers in exercises A and B? Well, you should have noticed that the number of zeros in the answers equal the number of decimal places to the divisors. So the answers are basically how far away from the wall those would be if I was to put 1 and 44 hundredths divided by 1 and 2 tenths. Notice I was one place to get to the wall there. That's 1 0 in the number, and in this case it was right here originally. So it's 2 places, so I needed 2 zeros in that to make that work. And keep in mind, the original position here was here, so I'd have to move it over that direction twice as well. So, and this one was 1, so I'd have to move that one over once. So you have to be fair on both ends of it, the dividend and the divisor. All right, let's try some more. Letter C, 24 hundredths divided by 4 tenths. Change each problem so that the divisor is a whole number, and then complete the answer by showing the answer when you divide. Letter C. So in this case, you would have multiplied this one by 10 and multiplied that by 10. So this would be 2 and 4 tenths divided by 4 in this case. And if, let me just show my work down here. So I'd have 2 and 4 tenths in the dividend and 4 as the divisor. Answer has the decimal straight up. This would be 0, this would be 6, 24, there'd be nothing left over. 6 tenths would be the answer to letter C. All right, go ahead and do letter D. 9 divided by 3 tenths. All right, on this one, I see that I'd have to make 3 a whole number by multiplying by 10. That means I have to multiply this by 10. So 90 divided by 3 would be what that would be. And I hope I can do this without showing my work, I guess, because 9 divided by 3 is 3, and then there's a 0 hanging off there. 30 would be the answer to that one. All right, let's do letter E. 2 and 5 tenths divided by 5 hundredths. And let me just put letter E right here for now. So for letter E, I have to multiply this by 100. So I'm moving it 2 places this way. I have to move this one 2 places. So that makes this problem 250 divided by 5. That's what I'd end up having. And then once I look at that, it's pretty straightforward. 25 divided by 5 is 5. This would be 25. There'd be nothing left over. Bring it down, it'd be nothing. 0 divided by 5 is 0. So the answer to this would be 50. Letter F. 12 divided by 3 tenths. So for letter F, you see that I move this one place to get it up against the wall. Here's where the decimal is on a 12. What do? I've got to actually move this over one place. And if I move it over one place, I have to have a 0 as a placeholder there. So my new equivalent division problem is actually 120 divided by 3. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. That'd be 12. There'd be nothing left over. And 0 divided by 3 is 0. So I'd have 40 for this one. So this would be 40. Letter G. 24 hundredths divided by 8 tenths. So in this one, I'm going to write this out. Let me put it out here like this first. 24 hundredths divided by 8 tenths. That looks like this. The reason why I did that was because I wanted to make sure which one I need to actually make sure I know what the divisor is. I I know that dividend and divisor maybe, but maybe if I don't, I just know that I can put this side inside the box. And this one's on the outside. The outside of the box is the divisor. The inside of the box is the dividend. Dividend. All right, so dividends on the inside, divisors on the outside. I need to move this decimal one place to the right. That means I need to move this one place to the right and straight up in the answer. So now I have 2 divided by 8, which is 0, because 8 won't fit into 2, but 8 will fit into 24. It'll fit in there 3 times, and that would be the final answer to that one, 3/10. All right, and letter H. 3/10 divided by 3/100. So 3/10 is on the inside, that's the dividend, and this is 3/100 on the outside here. And I need to recognize I move this decimal once, twice to get it up against the wall. I have to move this one once, twice, which would be in this position with the 0 as a placeholder there. I'm going to extend this out and I'm going to bring this straight up in the answer. So there's the decimal. Now I have 30 divided by, I could get rid of these. It's 30 divided by 3, and 3 will go into, 3 divided by 3 will be 1. And if I was to multiply that, that'd be that. This would be 0, bring this 0 down. 0 divided by 3 would be 0. Now the decimal's right there. I don't really need the decimal anymore because it's just simply 10. So the answer to this one would be 10. I don't need to put a 0.0 or anything on the end of that one. Okay, on letter I, if you have 4/10 divided by 5/100, let me put letter I right here. So if I have 4/10 divided by 5/100, it looks like this. I'm going to move the decimal over 2 places in this case. Once, twice, I have to have it here, and I have to have a 0 as a placeholder. And I'm going to extend this out, and the decimal comes straight up in the answer. Now I just simply have, I don't need these zeros, I don't need this 0. All I have is 40 divided by 5. You might know that already. 8. So the answer to this one would be 8. Letter J. Let me just put letter J right here. If I have 2/10 divided by 4/10, this is the dividend, this is the divisor. I need to move the decimal up against the wall here, and it looks like I moved it one place, so I have to move this one place. The decimal's here, but then it goes straight up onto this, and now I just have, in this case, I have 2 divided by 4, and most of us know that 2 divided by 4 doesn't work. What do we have to do? We have to actually add another 0 on here, and now we have 20 divided by 4. Well, that works. That's 5/10, and 5 times 4 is 20, and this would be nothing left over. I'm done. This would be 5/10 is what 2 divided by 4, or sorry, 2/10 divided by 4/10 is. So because it's giving us a problem with decimals, we need an answer with decimals. And letter K says, find how many nickels are in $3.25 by dividing 3 and 25/100 by 5/100. So for letter K, I need to do 3 and 25/100 divided by 5/100, which looks like this. Decimal moves over 2 places to the right up against the wall. I need to move it over 2 places to the right here, and then the decimal comes straight up in this one. I don't need these zeros anymore, and it's 325 divided by 5. Well, 5 won't go into 3, but it will go into 32. It'll go in there 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. Subtract that, I'd have 2. Bring this down. This would be 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Subtract that, nothing left over. I don't need any more decimals there unless you were, if you wanted to go further, you could. It would just end up being zeros. And you can see that it's $65 is how much. Sorry, I guess we don't need dollars. Just getting ahead of myself there and thinking too much. In this one, you only need 65 because it's asking how many nickels are there. So what is a nickel? Well, a nickel is 5 cents. So now we know how many nickels it took to get $3.25. So the answer would be just simply 65 nickels if you said that. You got that correct. All right, excellent work. If there's something you didn't understand, review all of these problems and or go back to your examples and um, previous lesson that we just went over. Review any of these things if you still don't understand how to divide by a decimal number. Just keep in mind the divisor, the number that you're dividing by, has to be a whole number. So the key to that again was unlocking it by shifting the decimal and being fair and balanced by actually multiplying the same thing. So if we had to multiply this by 100, we have to multiply this one by 100. And what are we doing there? We're just shifting decimals. So you could do it, you could look at it like this, or you could look at it like this. We're just shifting decimals until they're up against the wall, and then you have an equivalent division problem. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.